Going to tweak at your sensibilities for what we in America consider appropriate punishment for, horrible things like murder, and what the Europeans do. And what one European country's trying to tell us.
A country across the Atlantic just told Texas it can't have one of its own back unless we completely change how we punish people. Not just the death penalty, that part we've done before, but something nobody's done before. And I need you to understand what that means, because this isn't just about one man in an Italian jail. This is about who gets to decide what justice looks like in America and whether we're going to let another government tell us how to run our own courts. Let that sink in for a second.
So there's a Texas man, and he's facing an accusation right now of murdering his wife. Not just his wife, his pregnant wife. And as we speak, everything should have been getting all cooking for a trial in a Houston courtroom. Prosecutors are supposed to be laying out a case against this fella, and a jury is supposed to decide whether he killed his pregnant wife, the person with whom he shared a home and had 2 young children and a baby on the way. That wife was 38-year-old Christa Gilly. That husband is 38-year-old Lee Gilly, and instead of being in that courtroom facing that accusation that he did that to the mother of his 2 kids and the expectant 3rd kid, Lee Gilly is instead.
Christa Gilly was 38 years old, physical therapist, 2 kids, 3 and 5, and she was 2 months pregnant with a 3rd. On October 7, 2024, she called 911.
Monday, October 7th, 2024, late in the evening, inside the couple's home, something did go wrong because Lee Gilly called 911 and said that his pregnant wife was not breathing. So, of course, paramedics get there as fast as they can, and they grab her and they take her to Memorial Hermann Greater Heights Hospital. Doctors tried to save her life, but unfortunately, she was pronounced dead by early the next morning. Lee reportedly told the police that Christa may have overdosed or may have taken her own life. But the doctors saw something a little different. Yeah. When the medical examiner and the doctors took a closer look, they found injuries that kind of said it was not what Lee was telling them. According to the medical examiner, Christa did not die from drugs or suicide or some unexplained medical crisis. They say she died from compression on her neck and upper back, aka strangulation. For good measure, she also had bruising and apparent trauma to her face. So there was that. Her death was ruled a homicide.
Her husband said she wasn't breathing. By the next morning, she was dead. The medical examiner didn't find what he said: overdose, suicide, medical crisis. No, what they found was compression on her neck and upper back, strangulation, bruising on her face, trauma. Her death was ruled a homicide. And 4 days later, her husband, Lee Gilly, was arrested and charged with capital murder.
But the prosecutors say that just before the capital murder trial was supposed to begin, and yes, capital murder, you'll find out why in a moment, Lee Gilly, who was out on bond. I know. How are you facing capital murder and you're out on bond? We'll get there. Lee Gilly cut off his GPS monitor. Oh.
The kind of charge that means death penalty or life without parole in the state of Texas. We call that toe tag parole. You don't come out unless there's a toe tag on your gurney.
Homicide, not a suicide, not an accident, right? And just 4 days after Christa died, I guess there was enough evidence for probable cause because Lee Gilly was arrested and he was charged with not just murder, capital murder. Capital murder. And the capital part of it stems from the fact that Christa was pregnant. And under Texas law, that charge can expose a defendant to either the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. If you want to look it up, be my guest. It's Texas Penal Code 1903. And intentionally murdering an individual who is pregnant or killing more than one person, including an unborn child at any stage of the gestation, that constitutes capital murder in the state of Texas. And that crime is punishable upon conviction by either the death penalty or LWOP, life without the possibility of parole.
But here's where it gets sickening. Despite facing one of the most serious charges in American criminal law, a judge gave him bond.
So what happened after his arrest is one of the first major questions in this case, because despite facing the most serious charge, right? Capital murder, serious, doesn't get more serious in the state of Texas or anywhere else, yeah. He was given bond. Judge granted bond. The amount was big. I mean, it was a very high bond, $1 million, which is really a lot, but not when you're, not when you're on the upper echelons, and they had $1 million plus home. And so when Lee Gilly was released, the court placed him under strict conditions. He surrendered his passport.
$1 million. Hi, yes, but not for a man with $1 million plus house and a software consulting career. He got out, GPS monitor on his ankle, passport surrendered, ordered to stay in Texas. That was supposed to be it, in theory. But on May 1st, 2026, just before trial was set to begin, Lee Gilly cut off his GPS monitor and disappeared.
Who was out on bond. I know. How are you facing capital murder and you're out on bond? We'll get there. Lee Gilly cut off his GPS monitor. Oh. How did that happen? He was strapped to his ankle. He cut it off and he got out of Dodge. And when I say Dodge, I mean the United States. And he went from the United States to Canada using a fake ID, fake passport. You can't get into Canada without a passport. So he got himself a fake passport and he went to Canada.
He didn't go to another state. He went to another country. Fake passport. Actually, a forged Belgian passport with a fake name, Jean-Luc Olivier. He flew from Texas to Canada, then from Canada to Milan. And when Italian border police ran his documents in Milan, they caught him, handcuffed him, locked him in a cell.
Canada, but he didn't stop there. He got another flight to Milan, and not for Fashion Week. He forged Belgian documents, got himself those travel documents, and made his way to Italy, Milan, Italy. But the authorities caught up with him.
And then came the thing that should have been straightforward. Sending him back to Texas to stand trial. Should have been. But it wasn't. Because Lee Gilly did something most people don't think to do when they're sitting in an Italian jail cell facing American justice. He asked Italy to protect him.
He asked the Italians to protect him from the big, bad United States. He said to the Italians, if I go back to the United States, I'm going to face a death penalty. And maybe even life without parole. Isn't that terrible for this heinous and atrocious crime that I'm accused of committing? And wait till you hear the details, because I don't think it's much of an accusation. I think it is slam dunk. But he's asking the Italians, hey, help me get a break here. Hold on to me here, because
He told the Italians, if I go back to the United States, I face the death penalty. I face life without parole. I'm begging you, don't send me back to a country that will execute me or lock me away forever. Italy listened. And then Italy did something unprecedented. They didn't just say no to the death penalty. We've seen that 100 times. Countries like Mexico, countries like Canada, they've pushed back on capital punishment before. But Italy went further.
Assurances from the Texans that they will take the death penalty off the table. Again, we've heard that before. It's not unusual for other countries to do that. It happens all the time. But they also want the Texans to take the life without parole possibility off the table as well, if he's convicted. So basically what the Italians are saying is, we're not going to send him back. We are not going to deliver you one Lee Gilly, who's accused of killing Christa Gilly, unless you promise us you won't go so hard on him. Wait till I get the details out here. Of the way Christa was killed, because going easy on him if he did this.
The Italian government told Texas you can have Lee Gilly back, but only if you promise us two things. One, no death penalty. Two, no life without the possibility of parole. Not just one, both.
This is the one that gets him a craw. He said to the Italians, you also don't subscribe to life without the possibility of parole in this country. You believe in the possibility of parole, even for people who kill their pregnant wives. And again, he's alleged. It hasn't been proven in a court of law.
Ask yourself, when has any country ever told America it can't use life without parole as punishment? I'll wait. Because the answer is never. Until now. This isn't about being soft on crime. This isn't about protecting a man who may have strangled his pregnant wife and their unborn child. This is about institutional overreach. This is about a foreign government essentially dictating the terms of American punishment. And the most infuriating part is that prosecutors are having to negotiate. They're having to sit down and figure out how to work around a demand that should never have been made in the first place. Think about what that means for Christa's family. Her parents are raising her 2 children. They're fighting custody battles with Lee's family right now. The kids don't have their mom. Their dad is in an Italian jail, and his legal team is using Europe's moral objections to imprisonment to delay his return to face justice. Meanwhile, an alleged squatter broke into the family's $1 million home, changed the locks, installed cameras, and tried to claim ownership. Insult to injury doesn't even cover it. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. No one's really talking about Christa anymore. We're talking about extradition treaties. We're talking about international law. We're talking about Catholic theology and European abolition movements. And meanwhile, a pregnant woman who built a career as a physical therapist, who was raising 2 little kids, who was just trying to have a normal life in Houston. She's getting the fewest headlines. She matters the most, and she's disappeared from this story. The prosecutors think this is a slam dunk. They're pointing to Reddit posts where Lee talked about being bored in his marriage, looking for younger women, college-aged women.
According to the court documents, the investigators believe that some of those Reddit posts that he allegedly wrote months before Christa died, apparently they are clear and convincing motive for murder in the eyes of the prosecutors, because in those posts, the writer, presumably Mr. Gilly, described himself as bored in his marriage and interested in meeting younger women, including a college-aged woman for a casual sexual relationship. Ooh, that in the business is what we call bad facts. Not bad for prosecutors, bad for defendant.
They're pointing to a secret purchase of an SUV without his wife's knowledge, something that triggered a serious fight between them. They're pointing to his sudden communication with another woman about leaving Texas, about escape plans, about fake IDs.
Mr. Lee's attorney is a veteran Houston defense attorney named Dick DeGuerin. I know him. He's been around the block. This guy is no joke. And Mr. DeGuerin is arguing that Christa died from something else, something called methemoglobinemia. Again, I don't know if I got that right. It's a lot of syllables, but it's a rare blood disorder that interferes with the blood's ability to deliver oxygen. And that attorney also claims that Christa nearly died from meth, a condition that she had about 1.5 years before her death. So that will come in. It will be interesting. They'll have the battle of the medical experts if they get to trial in Texas. And I'm getting there because we're not there yet. I don't know that we're going to get a trial in Texas. I think we will, but there's a whole map that we got to navigate before that happens. Lee's trial was supposed to put those competing versions of Christa's death directly in front of those 12 jurors, but the authorities say, while the lawyers were preparing for court, Lee was preparing for something completely different. They say he had been communicating with another woman about leaving Texas, about removing his GPS monitor, about using fake ID.
They're pointing to the fact that he actually did what he planned to do. He cut the monitor. He fled. He ran. That's consciousness of guilt. That's a man who knew he was caught and decided to disappear rather than face a jury. The defense says different. They're arguing Christa had a rare blood disorder that might have caused her death. They're arguing the medical evidence was misinterpreted. But ask yourself, how does a blood disorder cause compression on the neck? How does it cause bruising and facial trauma? How does it explain the strangulation marks? And now we're stuck. Lee is in Italy. An Italian appeals court has temporarily blocked his extradition until Texas agrees to Italy's terms.
And now in the latest turn, an Italian appeals court has temporarily blocked the U.S. and their request to extradite Gilly back to Texas. The court is demanding these assurances that if he's returned and convicted, he will not face death and he will not spend the rest of his life in prison without a chance to get out. So the block, to be clear, is not permanent. It's just temporary. They're basically saying, we'll do business with you, but, we're putting our line in the sand. And
temporarily. They're not saying no forever. They're saying, we'll send him back, but you have to promise us you won't punish him the way your law says you're allowed to punish him. So what happens next? Texas has options. They can give in to Italy and remove the possibility of both death and life without parole, which means he could eventually get released no matter what he did. They can stack federal charges on top of the state charges. Federal crimes for using forged documents, for fleeing prosecution, that could add 25 years on top of whatever state sentence he gets. They could keep him in limbo in an Italian jail indefinitely while they fight this out. Or they could cave entirely. But here's what nobody's asking: did Lee Gilly research this before he ran? Did he know Italy doesn't have capital punishment and doesn't have life without parole? Did he know he could use those facts to delay, to fight, to maybe eventually walk free? Because if he did, that's another layer of consciousness of guilt. That's not a man running in panic. That's a man with a strategy. Christa's kids are waiting to know if their father is coming home to face justice or if international politics is going to give him a way out. Her parents are waiting to know if they're going to get closure or if this extradition fight is going to drag on for years. And the system that was supposed to protect them, that was supposed to keep a man facing capital murder behind bars without bail, that system let him go. Two things are still unanswered. One, did Lee Gilly deliberately research Italian law before he fled, or was it pure luck that he landed in a country with no death penalty and no life without parole? Two, will Texas eventually cave to Italy's demands? And if so, what does that mean for any American state facing a similar extradition fight? Drop your theories in the comments. What do you think Italy's really after here? And do you think they'll stick to their demands?